And they only do because they found out you were sort of bragging publicly about not paying the ticket.
Yes, I think that could be good for me.
Like if you ended up having to pay a speeding ticket that you got in Spain because of this,
yeah.
That's a great content.
That's a win. That would be worth that. That's like a bet you get to talk about for 6 months that you lose, but content.
Worth it.
Like in this job, that's fine. Yeah.
As long as that's the end of it.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't involve serious
extradition,
detention, and I'm sent whatever.
Guantanamo.
There's some nasty stuff going on in this country right now, so I don't want any part of that. But provided they demand payment, even with interest or something, I'm taking that as a win.
Connor Rogers with us on short notice. Thank you, Connor. He joins us on the Wester Hotline. If you got a speeding ticket from another country, would you pay it?
Now you guys really have me thinking here. Like, number one, is Bulldog on the run? And we don't know. Like, he could be doing this show from anywhere right now. What are the options to pay it? Do I have to mail a global check? Is there an online portal? I have so many questions.
This is one of the things that freaked me out when this arrived in the mail months after we were in Spain last summer, and we were into the fall, if not like November already, when November is fall, when I got the notice. And someone else that was on the trip also got a similar notice. But there's a QR code. And I just thought, I don't know, this could be a scam. They know somebody knows I rented a car in Spain and they're sending this thing and I'm going to send them my credit. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it.
I assume everything is a scam at this point.
Right.
I would 100% ignore this. No way would I send $1.
But I did get a follow-up like a few months later, but it's the same deal, same form letter basically. Like it's $100 fine, it's $50 if you pay it now, and like we're coming up on a year since the infraction. But I still could not bring myself to put my phone over that QR code and like take the picture and go to the web. I'm just like, no, I'm gonna lose everything.
I'm with Connor in that everything is a scam. My sister Betsy called me 2 days ago. I'm like, you know what? It wouldn't shock me if Capital One figured out how to call me as my sister.
Right. You can't trust anyone anymore. You just ignore everything until it's like really, the witching hour, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I'm going to need the Spanish police on my porch, I think, is what's going to have to happen.
Mail a $100 bill. Can you, just mail a $100 bill and see if it's done?
Maybe
safest route.
Maybe a $5. I might just try that.
This is where cash is missed in the world, significantly.
Yes. Also missed in the world, Aaron Rodgers. So I wonder from your perspective with the Jets, Connor, how this looks. Like, I wonder, too, if when the Jets traded for him, you liked it. I'm sure we talked then. I did. I thought it made sense. Just go for it. Go be New York. Go get, a 4-time MVP. But it didn't go well, of course. How are you watching the Rodgers stuff, if you can stand to look at it?
Yeah, it's definitely a different perspective now, and I'm with you. I thought in that window it did make sense when you look at kind of, how Joe Douglas's timeline went. It didn't work with Sam Darnold, and I know he didn't pick Darnold, but they opted to, not continue to build around Darnold and move on from him when they hired the new coaching staff, and then they drafted Zach Wilson, and that was a disaster. So it was kind of like, man, you have one bullet left in the chamber, right? How are you going to use it if you're Joe Douglas, or else you're fired? And he took the biggest swing, and I think that's what anyone would do. So you could sit there and argue that his own shortcomings led to that level of risk of a move, but in that window, it was probably the best swing they could take. So, and at the end of the day, it didn't work out for, reasons that you can project with a quarterback that age. Health, obviously, decline last year was more of the reason. And then there's the circus. Let's just call it what it is. There's a circus that comes with Aaron Rodgers that I think at the time people were willing to overlook because of the desperation at the position, that now you look back on it and you go, wow, everything that a lot of the people in Green Bay were kind of naysaying at the time came to light with Rodgers and ran its course. And now you look at how he operates, and it's like, it is the juxtaposition to me, guys, is very funny right now. Watching the Jets with Aaron Glenn, who wanted nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. You couldn't pay Aaron Glenn to have Aaron Rodgers on the roster. And their now robot quarterback, I like to call him, in Justin Fields, and I mean that as a compliment. Like, every time Fields gets to the podium in the best way possible, it almost bores you. He's not flashy. He just wants to get better. He doesn't really have anything outlandish to say. You don't see him on podcasts. He's just a robot quarterback, which is kind of the come back down to earth thing the Jets needed. Be boring this year is kind of their slogan, and Rodgers is still out there saying all kinds of crazy things while holding another team hostage this time.
Does it kind of blow your mind that the Steelers, just like all of us, would have watched this all go down with both the Packers at the end and the Jets for the last 2 years, and are still lighting candles for him? Like, I get that there's not a better option necessarily out there, but man, I just can't. I can't believe that it went the way it went, and there's still a team acting like the Steelers right now.
I mean, the definitive answer is yes. I cannot believe this. It's especially for them.
Right.
Number one is because I don't think he's good anymore. Okay, like that's the thing is with quarterbacks or any professional athlete, you put up with a lot of different things if they produce on the field, on the court, on the ice, wherever it may be. And Rodgers simply, and I know people like to throw numbers in the face or blame the Jets, which the Jets, listen, the Jets can take a brunt of the blame for a lot of players' shortcomings over the years. They gave Aaron Rodgers everything he ever wanted. They gave him his offensive staff. They gave him players he wanted. They drafted for him. They signed free agents for him. And at the end of the day, he wasn't good enough to lift the Jets, over this playoff hump that they've been kicking back and forth with the Sabres for a million years at this point. And not to take a shot at Buffalo there, but I share the pain.
Yes.
I really do. It's just that's where it is right now. Why did the Steelers think it'll be different?
Right.
I don't know, especially with Arthur Smith, who is going to want to do things Arthur Smith's way. And Aaron Rodgers has shown you he wants to do things Aaron Rodgers' way. That is not changing. Nobody can actually really convince themselves of that. So I find it very odd. And Bulldog, to your point of there's not a lot of options, that's true. This quarterback class wasn't deep, but it's still surprising, that there wasn't a different option out in front of this one, because this feels really low on the scale you'd want to dive into.
With Connor Rogers, NBC, SNY, the Fantasy Football Happy Hour as well, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here on WGR. Two Fields and the Jets. Can it work? I mean, in fantasy, right, we love the idea of Justin Fields. Even with as low as the win total is for the Jets and maybe a relative paucity of weapons, as good as Wilson is, I'm not even sure that's right. But he goes way higher in a fantasy draft than he would in like a quarterback ranking, right, because of the upside with his running. Can it? What odds would you give it that Fields has a season? And what is this season, Connor, where like after this year, the Jets or we're all really talking about like a bigger, longer deal for him?
I would call it about 20% chance he has that dream season or enough of a season that you go, okay, I want to see year 2 of Fields, which he's signed for, and we're going to keep trying to build with this. I'd call it about 60% chance that he's more of what he's always been or more of what the Steelers had, where you can win games with him. He will not propel you to wins, and that's exactly the dollars he was signed for when you look at the structure of the contract. And then the Jets are kind of going into the draft saying, hey, we're going to look for our next guy. Fields might open the season as the starter, so we don't have to rush this guy, but Fields is not the long-term future. And then there's the 20% chance on the other end that he just totally bombs out and Tyrod Taylor has to finish this season. It's probably going to be closer to what we've seen with him more recently, that he's a capable starter when the infrastructure around him is good enough to lift them to wins. In fantasy, the conversation is different because he has the ceiling because of the rushing, but he also has the floor because of the rushing, and the numbers don't lie. Like when Justin Fields is a starting quarterback, he is a highly productive fantasy football quarterback, and I think another thing people are kind of feeling a little better about with him is that it's a weird double-edged sword, right? The good side of it is Garrett Wilson, I think, is the best receiver he's going to throw to at the NFL level, and it works out well for Garrett. On the other side of it, the Jets have no other pass catchers in that wide receiver room that give you a lot of promise. It's more about Breece Hall catching the ball, Mason Taylor, the rookie tight end. They have a lot to be desired there where they're going to run the ball a lot. So, if I had to truly say that the runaway favorite is Fields will be fine, but he won't be good enough that the Jets aren't looking for their future of the quarterback in round 1 next year. That would be the runaway favorite right now.
It's kind of funny, like at Underdog, Connor, Fields, Wilson, Breece Hall, they're like all rank about the same at their respective positions. Fields is maybe quarterback 12. Wilson is wide receiver 13. Breece Hall is running back 13. So I don't know how rare that might be, but just for a team that isn't really like established here with the new quarterback, it's funny that they all sort of slot in the same on the same row, basically.
How optimistic are you? You just sort of put percentages on it there, so I'm sorry to clumsily repeat the question. It's not the same question. Really, what I want to know is when you look at Fields, I'm assuming you've done some work on him because he's the Jets quarterback now. Is it just processing? Because the talent, the running is there, the arm is there, and when he knows where he's going with the ball, it seems like he delivers it pretty well. It's the confusion is the problem, and I don't know. That feels like a harder thing to expect a guy to suddenly have the light go on for if it hasn't happened yet.
That's exactly right. It's the processing speed and holding on to the ball too long. And, the beauty of that is he's mobile enough to extend plays, run, or roll out and throw on the run. The tough part of that is it just slows down your offense in terms of playing point guard at the position. And that's kind of been his problem is speeding up that internal clock, and then you have to kind of construct an offense where that limits that situation. You don't want to find yourself playing for, down 2 touchdowns in the second half where we're in this throw-heavy script. We'd rather be in a run-heavy script. And I think for the Jets, what they're excited about with him is, you look at what the Commanders did, Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels last year, and not that Fields will have a Jaden Daniels here, that's ridiculous. But from a schematic standpoint, a lot of that zone read run game will help Breece Hall. It'll help the offensive line. It'll help Justin Fields. It'll absolutely just create more space in a numbers game that the Jets last year were insanely easy to play against. I mean, they didn't run under center. Aaron Rodgers was in shotgun or pistol. He can't move. They really had no motion in the offense, no movement, no eye candy. So for Fields' shortcomings as a thrower, the longer the play goes, there's different wrinkles that Tanner Engstrand is going to be able to develop in this offense to make you feel a little better about it than what they were dealing with last year. So, yeah, that is going to be it, though. Like, if his processing speed doesn't improve, he is going to be a guy that always finds himself in this, hey, let's give it a year with him and see if he can, a bridge guy in short terms, if we can build this offense around his strengths.
With Connor Rogers, mentioning Breece Hall earlier, there was trade speculation about him around the time of the draft, and he was not traded. Did you buy that? And because I couldn't really understand why they would want to trade him. Is it maybe just 1 year up from a contract, like same as James Cook, by the way? Because I think Hall has shown to be excellent, or at least pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a weird one, right? Where I think it kind of created its own life and got ran away with. I think that they are lower in the building on Breece Hall than people would expect because he hasn't been healthy, and this is a new staff. But these coaches know things, and the people in the building know things, and they'd like to see more from him. And you are at the point where, say, this year kind of plays out like last year, and then he just walks away for nothing because the running backs don't get paid enough that your compensatory pick value will really be worth much. But at the end of the day, it always made more sense for the Jets to keep Breece Hall because it's so easy with the pending running back free agents. If he has the season from a talent perspective that we all know he can have, you just franchise tag him. And it's a low number. It's so easy to retain a running back on that first franchise tag. If he has a really, really bad season, then they'll probably just let him walk or bring him back on a really, really cheap deal. So, and I think the other thing is nobody was going to trade a real asset for a running back in a draft that was loaded at running back.
Yeah.
There was so much talent in this class. Everybody felt like they could find starters in the top 100. And I think it's more that the Jets like their 3 running backs, Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, behind him, where they don't want Breece to have to be a hero back, and his body hasn't shown us that he can handle that yet.
How different is it with Aaron Glenn there in the job? You mentioned, what would you say their slogan? Be boring?
Be boring.
Right.
Yeah, very different, I think, from a standpoint of, he's used the phrase celebrity quarterback before. He's just clearly, Glenn is so fixated on this being about the 53-man roster where Saleh, fell into this really bad habit of when Zach Wilson was an anchor for the team before they got Rodgers, and it wasn't just Saleh. Saleh said it publicly, but there was assistant coaches that I know were saying this around the building. They were just saying, we're a quarterback away, we're a quarterback away, we're a quarterback away. And Sure, like Zach Wilson didn't play well enough where he deserved the benefit of the doubt. But when Rodgers got there, I think it made everybody lighten up to a point where the defense took a step back. Guys weren't as dialed in. The accountability was completely missing. The discipline was a joke. I mean, the Jets were running up penalties at an alarming number. They clearly didn't prepare the right way. Whether, you're there or not, it's pretty easy to see how it translated every single Sunday or when they had to play a million times on Mondays and Thursdays. And at the end of the day, much to our chagrin, and at the end of the day, Aaron Glenn is sitting there and making it about the 53-man roster, getting on guys. And he will be a drill sergeant when he has to, but he has that clout because Aaron Glenn was a great player in this league. He's been a great player in the league. He's been a great coach in the league. Yeah, assistant coach, not head coach. And he's scouted before. So he's done the triangle of the NFL where he has a little bit merit to act that way and hopefully build out a team that when a rookie quarterback gets here one day, if Fields is the guy, that he's walking into a place where he's part of the team. He's not trying to uplift and be a savior for the team.
Man, no kidding about the Jets in prime time. This year,
oh my goodness,
this year it's only 2 and both are away, not including the game in London against Denver, which I think technically is also away, even though. But at Miami on a Monday night, week 4, at New England on a Thursday night, week 11. There's no scheduled primetime game at the Jets this year, and maybe you'll enjoy that. I mean, we look at this from both sides. We had years. We talked about one yesterday, Connor, where the Bills literally played 16 out of 16 1 o'clock Sunday games. They didn't have a West Coast trip. They were never on at night. That was 2010. And then, this year they have 7 or something. The 2 years ago, they played 7 night games. So it's different times here.
Yeah, it's weird, right? It's a dream, I think, when you're covering the team and when you're a player, because I like to call it, rest versus irregular rest is what I kind of barrel it down to. And there is data backing up shortcomings of this. And the Jets were not going to be good last year, if they played every game at 1 o'clock. But it certainly did not help them playing these irregular weeks. They had a bizarre schedule. They were constantly playing in primetime, short weeks, long weeks, and yeah, at the end, obviously London, which they just are obsessed with. It's an owner decision, I think, or influence decision. It's just whatever. And I think when it comes down to it, yeah, I think, but Josh Allen is prime time. Everybody wants to see Josh Allen. And the Bills, the difference with the Bills, though, and the Jets last year is the Bills have sustainability, that they're built for it, where it's this consistent at the coaching staff, consistent with the quarterback, consistent in terms of their scheme principles on both sides of the ball. Where the Jets last year, Rodgers coming off the Achilles, it felt like they just tried to microwave everything, and then they had this wild schedule, and it all kind of blew up in their face.
Yeah. The Denver game, by the way, is technically a home game for the Jets. I was maybe a little bit confusing there. The Bills have perhaps somewhat of a quandary at running back with James Cook, having broken down some of the Breece Hall stuff. Cook not around for, it's so far only voluntary practices, but he's been a little bit public on trying to get paid, like an elite running back. And he had 18 regular season touchdowns last year, 16 on the ground to tie for the league lead. Any thoughts on him, like how important he might be as you see it to the Bills if he were to drag this out through the summer and, sort of force the Bills' hand or try to? How much trouble would the Bills be in?
I don't think a lot, honestly. I know that might be jarring to people. Would you like them to get a James Cook deal done? Yeah, of course. Can you buy out 2 franchise tags or whatever you need to do? I don't think touchdowns are a very stable metric, as impressive as it was. I think scoring touchdowns is a skill, an underrated skill. But I think based on where you are, it's not a stable metric where, Ray Davis is a fine player. I liked Ray Davis a lot in college, and I kind of, called him a Honda Civic in that draft, where he's just going to do everything the right way and give you 250,000 miles and go about your business without much flash, but a lot of substance. You'd like to see the Cook deal get done, but I don't think it significantly affects their offense in some kind of way where, you look at the Bills and be like, now they're in trouble. So I don't blame them for being kind of dug in, because if you just kind of look at, is he a replaceable player? You'd like to have more time to do that, whether it's another draft or whatever it may be. But on the flip side of it for Cook, you need to be a little careful here as well, And because these running back holdouts, I think we're kind of at the point with them where have they done any good for anyone?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Josh Jacobs when he did it, and there's just a laundry list of these where it just often doesn't really play out in your favor. So I think for both sides, it would just make sense. Can you find a way to sweeten the pot, whether it's guaranteed money or some kind of Band-Aid deal that helps both sides? I don't see why this would drag out deep into camp if just what history has shown us and how it doesn't help.
Yeah, I wonder if they won't just dig in on the franchise side of this thing, Connor, and I don't know. I don't want to say dare him because they have a Super Bowl team here. They're trying to win the Super Bowl, and I don't think they want players feeling like they're not taking care of their guys or anything like that.
Right.
But the Bills really have the leverage, like you mentioned it. Who wins in these running back holdouts? A guy, he's eventually going to come in. Like if the Bills they can't find a number that's agreeable, and I don't think they're going near $15 million here, which is what he's dreaming about. Then I think they would just let him come in and play and hope they get his best and let him go on his way.
And that's honestly, people might not want to hear it, but that's what they should do. And
Yeah.
I think it's right. When you look at it, too, the Bills don't have the problem that some organizations have where everybody's looking around and going, God, they're not taking care of Cook with all he's done. What does that say about this organization? They don't have that problem. They've paid a ton of people. They've paid a ton of people early. And it's worked out for them for the most part. They've gotten ahead of deals, and guys want to stay there. And like I said, it goes back to the word sustainability that I used earlier. So it's not like when the Bengals don't deserve the benefit of the doubt, right? Even after they got Burrow and the receivers done, which was startling because it feels like they are never able to do that. Now Trey Hendrickson's situation is loud, and rightfully so. And they've been kind of playing with their food with Hendrickson's deal for a long time. The Bills don't have that same issue where I don't think players look around and go, oh, Buffalo, I'm going to give it my all, and they're going to kind of spit me out of the wash. So I think this is more of a running back CBA issue right now that's not going away, and you better be a special – I think it comes down to this. You need to be a special running back in this league to get that kind of extension. There's maybe 4 guys like that in this league right now, and I think James Cook is a fine football player, and I tip my cap to everything he's done since he got there. I don't think he's a special running back in this league where it would completely flatten the Bills' offense without him.
Connor, you gave us a lot of your time here, a lot of insight, as always. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always a blast. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Connor